What's going on, everybody? This is Nick Lawson from Squad Sports. We're really excited to be supporting the Free Agent Friday series. A lot of great talent out there. Without further ado, this is the next free agent you should be signing with your sports team.
All right, we're back for another Free Agent Friday, and I've got Will Biba with me. How's it going, Will?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
It's a great day here in Northern Virginia, so can't complain. Can't complain. Let's start off with where you went to school, any degrees that you had.
Sure. I started at Texas A&M here in Texas. Obviously, I got my bachelor's degree in sports management there with a minor in business, and then I moved on to University of the Incarnate Word in San Antonio, Texas, here for my master's, and I got my master's in sport management as well.
At what point did you decide you wanted to get in the sports business?
I grew up playing just about every sport you could possibly think of. I was one of those guys that I was good enough to make every team, but not good enough to start on hardly any of them.
Right.
So it was a fun ride. I liked being able to learn and play everything, and I think if I had just focused on one, I might have been able to do something with it. But I wouldn't have traded it for anything. I loved playing everything and getting to know all sorts of different people, and so that kind of brought me into when I started looking at different colleges and universities and what I wanted to study. There's a whole bunch of options, but I thought, sports is really what I love. It's what I love to play and do, watch. So why not continue on that path if it's possible? And looking at Texas A&M, they had a sport management program, and I said, sounds perfect. Sign me up.
It's always a good one. It's always a good one. So when you were at school, did you do any internships or volunteer work?
So we were required to do one internship for our coursework. I interned with the A&M athletic department in their facilities management group. So I was the student development manager for the Zone Club, which is essentially the club room and all of the different facilities for the football stadium and the indoor track.
Very nice. So what was kind of your first position when you got out of school?
So when I finished that internship, I graduated and ended up going right back to work the next day for A&M. They were just getting ready to start all their renovations on Kyle Field and do all the big work. So during my internship, I was part of that team that was helping with the design and what we were going to do to the stadium to make it more student friendly, more fan friendly, and make it the kind of mecca that it is today in the college football world. And the assistant manager that was in my department had just taken a new position, and they said, "Hey, we don't have a full-time position for you, but we've got 3 months till the end of the football season. You've already started this project. Stay on. Let's get this going, and then when season's over, we'll figure it out from there." And so I got to take on that assistant manager role for 3 or 4 months throughout the football season, and then when that season ended, I had some other opportunities arrive. So I ended up going on to work for as a contractor for NRG Park and the Houston Astrodome, doing some more renovation, more memorabilia stuff, and kind of pulling all the monuments, plaques, memorabilia out of the Astrodome for a month while I bridged that gap and tried to figure out what my next move was. And when that ended, I ended up being able to start grad school.
Nice. Were you working or doing any internships during grad school?
So during grad school, I was a graduate assistant in the sports and wellness department, which was a branch of the athletic department at the time. And eventually it kind of phased out into its own department under the student activities realm for the university. But during that time, I was running the rec sports and intramurals program, as well as helping to run the wellness center, the natatorium, a little bit with club sports and that sort of thing. And then throughout that time, NRG Park actually called a few more times and said, "Hey, do you want to come do some more contract work for us? A couple weeks here, a couple weeks there." So I had the privilege of getting to come down to Houston and doing the NCAA regionals for men's basketball, and then got a chance to come back and do the Final Four the following year. And
Nice.
then when I graduated, they said, "Hey, we've got to get ready for the Super Bowl this year now. So do you want to come do it again?" I said, "Sure, why not?" So it was definitely interesting. Luckily, my professors were all very open to the idea of me missing a couple weeks at a time to come on down and do that. But I got to keep up with my coursework. Writing papers in the press row is always fun at the Final Four.
Yeah, you can't miss that experience though either. I mean, then that's
Absolutely.
pretty cool.
If you want to do this, then report back when you come back. Let us know how it went, and we'll figure something out. We'll make it worth your while.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I always say, work experience, trumps, you know, education in a lot of times. I mean, I like people. I like to know that they have already had some of those experiences, and I'm sure that's probably really helped out. What kind of stuff were you doing after that?
So when I finished grad school, I started doing some work for the Super Bowl. So I spent about 5 weeks as a contractor leading up to the Super Bowl, and then after the Super Bowl, they NRG said, "Hey, we've got rodeo coming up. You want to stay around for a few weeks during rodeo?" And Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo is one of the biggest in the world. So
Wow.
it takes over an entire 350-acre property, has a full stadium, full convention center, full arena is all part of it, plus the grounds for carnivals and parking and stuff. And so they said, "Can you come help?" And I said, "Absolutely. I don't have anything better to do. Don't have a full-time job yet." So about halfway through that, they had a position open up in the area that I was helping with. And so I applied and, interviewed, and they said, "All right, you start on Monday." And I was like, "Am I stopping what I'm doing now?" And they said, "On Monday, you'll stop what you're doing now."
Nice. Well, they saw, it helps you were there, building those relationships and letting people see how you work. It's a good testament to yourself that, you were able to start out there as a contractor and kind of move up from there. So, how did that end with SMG, or what is it?
So it
AMG
was
now?
SMG, and it ended up becoming ASM Global
ASM, yeah.
when they had their merger with AEG Facilities. But so I had worked as a parking coordinator for a little over a year, doing basically any kind of outside operations. Parking, we never really liked that term for our department because we were doing all of the operations outside, ordering tents and doing all of the day-to-day operations and event operations outside the facility, and then doing parking of cars on as in a part of that. And then after about a year, they had a operations manager position open up, and I said, "Well, I'm already doing operations, might as well move up." And so I was promoted into an operations manager role for about a year and a half. And then from there, the XFL started, and so we were getting a team here in Houston. I said, "This sounds like fun to be on the more of the client side rather than on the operations facility side," and applied with them. And I actually finished my position at ASM Global at the time. Friday afternoon at 3:30, I left. I was in the office for the XFL at 4 o'clock, and in my first meeting with the team president at 4:30. So
Wow.
it,
What a busy day.
yeah, and then the next morning we were in a meeting with the league president and commissioner at 8 a.m. So it
Nice.
went real quick.
So tell me more about that role. Like, what kind of duties were you doing there?
For the XFL.
Yeah.
So for the XFL, I was the business and game day operations manager. I worked under Bert Emanuel and Brian Cooper. They were our business operations manager or director, and then the team president. And so while I was there, all the daily business tasks, overseeing budgets and finances and, the general office operations. And because I started right literally the day before training camp started in our rehearsal games, I guess you could say, our exhibition games, I got thrown into it real quick, and they said, "Hey, do you want to do the game day presentation, the game presentation fan experience? I said, absolutely. And so I was responsible for all fan experience, all fan engagement activities. I wrote the scripts, the PA script, the in-stadium host script, run of show, and everything for the on-field presentation, as well as overseeing the parking and all of the different aspects and elements outside the stadium that fans interacted with. For instance, a food truck plaza. We had our merchandise stands outside, kids zone. We had a band outside the stadium for while you were coming in and all of that.
What side do you like better? You like working on the team side or, the venue side?
Each one has their strong points. I really loved in the venue side, being able to watch the venue change, day by day, hour by hour. Even one of my favorite things to do was to go up to the top of the stadium on the highest seat I could, and I would take a picture every like 8 hours. When we were changing from a Texans game to Monster Jam to Beyonce concert back to Texans game, and
Right.
every day how it changes. You see those montages when they're changing hockey into basketball. I always loved that. It was so fulfilling, and being able to see those events happen. But I did really enjoy being able to use more of my creative side to create these presentation pieces, and to be able to say, hey, I think fans will really enjoy this. I've seen this at this event, and seen this at this event, and being able to tie those all together to really create an event that I thought fans would want to attend. One of those things we always heard with the XFL was, this isn't a stuffy football game. This isn't your average game. This is more of a rock concert. Everybody's into it. Everybody's going nuts. And I said, perfect. And we pulled aspects from, monster truck rallies, and we pulled aspects from soccer games and from concerts and football games at every level, all to create that presentation. And it really paid off big in the long run. So I really enjoyed both. I'd say, I like being able to be a little more creative now. And so I think that's probably where I'm leaning, but both have their positives.
So what's kind of the ideal job that you're looking for now?
If I could do event presentation or event management, I think that would be I shouldn't say my ideal, but what I'd like to do. It's not the dream job, but that's
what's the dream job?
It's gonna sound really weird, but my dream is to be Orbit for the Houston Astros, the mascot. I would love to be a mascot for a professional team, and get to have some antics, and hang out with fans, and really make that event special for people.
Yeah, did you ever get in a mascot costume?
I've never been in a mascot costume.
Come on, man.
Everywhere I've gone, so at the Roughnecks, because our season was going so quickly, we all kind of said, hey, we're not going to do mascots this year. But we were in the process when we ended up, shutting our doors, to create mascots for our team. And so kind of getting the design, I was like, if I'm getting in this thing, no matter what, if this changes my position, so be it. So,
what do you think is the biggest asset or skill that you're going to bring to the table?
I would say my biggest asset or skill would be my ability to problem solve and think on my feet in a quick, chaotic atmosphere. When things are going wrong or something's really going right, being able to change gears and change that plan, make a decision, and then make it happen all really quickly. I think that's probably my biggest asset.
Problem solving for me is very important. I definitely, it's probably the number one skill that I want in somebody. They got to be able to problem solve. Because in this business, there's always problems coming up, and
nothing ever goes as you plan, or, hey, this went way better than we expected. We actually had that happen a few times with the XFL. Yeah. Hey, people are loving this, and we rewrote our script right there and said, we're going to keep going with it.
Yep, this is here all the time. So with your, your positive side, how about what's the negative? What do you need to work on now?
That's always a tough question in an interview. I would say probably what I would need to work on most is my ability to delegate. In a chaotic situation, and when I'm problem solving, delegation's not hard because you have to make it happen. But I would say, I got a lot better about it during my time with the Houston Roughnecks, but being able to delegate, those daily tasks, I always wanted not necessarily control, but I wanted to be able to see this is how this is happening, and I wanted to make
Make
sure
sure
it
it gets
happens
done and
exactly
done
like it
right.
needs to happen.
Yeah.
Rather than trusting people. But I had a great team at the XFL that I was working with, and so that delegation was actually really easy and really rewarding because I got other people's perspectives and learning how to figure out what they see, and the way they do it might not be the way I do it, but they're going to get it done, and we can work together on it.
Yeah, I had struggled with delegation early on in my career, but it's needed. So I adapted and definitely get a lot more done now because I don't. So how would you, do you have any fun facts about yourself? I know that you already said you wanted to be a mascot, so you can't use that one.
Right. That would have been my go-to.
What would most people maybe not know about you, or, it's not on your resume, any stories?
Oof. So this is going to be really weird, and I'll preface that. So I worked at a camp for kids with special needs here in Texas throughout college. And I actually started out volunteering there and then ended up getting a position during the summers and on some weekends. And we were doing a kind of a clean out day for the activities. And so one of my coworkers and we were cleaning out our nature activity, which we have a lot of animals. And so there's snakes and, turtles and tortoises and you name it. We had it. And so we had this big red-tailed boa snake, and so we were cleaning out his area, so we put him in like a little planter box, and he is real tame and everything, and we were just pulling stuff out, and he ended up getting stuck in like this thick cardboard tube, and we ended up having to cut him out of it, and that was probably one of the scariest, most wild times I've ever had. And I think this is probably the first time I've ever telling a story to somebody other than the person I was with. So yeah, I guess my weird fact is I got a snake stuck in like essentially a wrapping paper tube, and I had to cut it out.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'd let it stuck in there. I'll tell you that. So no, well, listen, I appreciate you joining me. Hopefully, we can help you get back working, soon. I think, your experience and knowledge is going to definitely be an asset out there. So, if I can help in any way, definitely keep in touch. Hopefully this will help get some more exposure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome.